Be thankful for the lesson, my sister said. After her husband took 28 months of my work and $100,000 in pay, I built a company that crushed him. Ever wonder how far family loyalty can stretch before it snaps, leaving nothing but broken trust and a gaping hole where a relationship used to be? Because for me, that breaking point came with a gut-wrenching realization. My own sister chose to protect her husband's lies and greed over my livelihood, even as he was openly stealing from me. I was barely 24, fresh out of trade school, clutching my shiny new electrician's license, ready to conquer the world. The only problem? I had zero experience and even fewer contacts. Then my sister Meline married Cole. He owned a small but thriving electrical contracting firm, new constructions, renovations, panel upgrades, the works. He had about 7 employees and always too many jobs. Meline, bless her heart, saw an opportunity. You should work for Cole, she suggested. It'll be good for everyone. You'll learn, Cole will get reliable help, and we'll be one big happy family. It sounded perfect. A built-in entry into the industry, family support. What could go wrong? Cole agreed, but there was a catch. Can't pay you a full wage immediately, he explained, his voice smooth as polished copper. Company's growing, cash is tight. I'll give you a small amount each week for living expenses, and we'll settle up once things stabilize. Give it 9, maybe 18 months. I was young, naive, and desperate for a foot in the door. And Meline was my sister. I believed them both. Yes, I said. That small amount turned out to be $250 a week. I was clocking at least 48 hours, often closer to 58. I was a licensed electrician, not an apprentice, but I worked my butt off, doing the dirtiest, hardest jobs just to prove myself. Meanwhile, Cole's other staff, who weren't even licensed, were making $28 to $34 an hour. I was making less than $6. Every single week that wage felt like a punch to the gut. I'd try to rationalize it. It's temporary, I'd tell myself. Cole's good for it. And Meline? Meline would never let her own brother get duped like this. I held on to that thought like a lifeline. 9 months crawled by. I approached Cole, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, about getting paid fairly. He brushed me off with a wave of his hand. Company's still establishing itself, buddy. Give it a few more months. Besides, he leaned in conspiratorially, you're learning so much, aren't you? Isn't that worth something? I went to Meline, my frustration bubbling over. He's still not paying me. She sighed, looking tired. Cole's really stressed right now. Just be patient. The experience you're gaining is worth more than money, trust me. So, like an idiot, I waited. 18 months passed. I brought it up again. This time, Cole's irritation was palpable. He actually sneered. Ungrateful, he called me. I took a risk on you when no one else would. You can leave, but you'll be starting over from scratch. Seems like I'm helping you by not paying you. The audacity. And Meline? She doubled down. You're part of the family business, she insisted. Think long term. Money isn't everything. Easy for her to say, living in the 4-bedroom house her husband bought. I stayed another 18 months. Why? Maybe I kept expecting things to change. Maybe I was terrified of starting over. Or maybe, just maybe, I couldn't bear to believe my own sister would let this happen. By month 28, I couldn't take it anymore. I sat down, opened a spreadsheet, and crunched the numbers. Work hours, market rate for a licensed electrician, minus his pathetic payments. Cole owed me over $107,600. And that didn't even include interest. I brought it up at Sunday dinner at their house. I laid out the figures, clear as day. Cole just looked at the papers, then at me, and he actually chuckled. Then he laughed. A full, booming laugh. Fake figures, he roared. You were an apprentice, not a journeyman. $250 a week is more than enough for a tradesman still learning. I pulled out my license. I wasn't learning, Cole, I was working. He scoffed. That's just a piece of paper. Real knowledge comes from experience. Experience I gave you. Meline, ever the peacemaker, chimed in. You're ruining dinner. So dramatic. If you're so unhappy, find a new job. So I did. The very next day I quit. I sent Cole a text, no explanation. My phone lit up with 14 missed calls from him, but I silenced it. In 28 months I'd saved almost nothing. My $250 a week barely covered rent and groceries. But I had something else. Something he didn't realize he'd given me. For those 28 months I'd worked in every corner of the city. I recognized builders, knew vendors, understood which inspectors were strict and which were reasonable. And I knew Cole's job prices inside out. I knew he was overcharging his clients by a good 12%. I spent 10 weeks working for another contractor, saving every penny, plotting my escape. Then I applied for my own business license. Proper Electrical Services, I named it. Simple, memorable. I started small, just my tools, an old beat-up van. I contacted every builder and general contractor I'd met while working for Cole. I'm on my own now, I told them. My prices are fair, my work is reliable. Slowly, calls started coming in. Word spread. After 7 months, my workload exceeded my capacity. I hired my first employee, then another. By month 14, I had 5 employees and a small office. Despite being financially broke when I started, I was building something genuinely mine. Cole noticed. Of course he noticed. Several of his clients had quietly switched to me. Not because I poached them, but because they preferred my work and found my prices lower. About 18 months after I left, his call came. You stole my business, he raged. You used my contacts? It's unethical. I actually laughed. And not paying your brother-in-law for 28 months of work, Cole? Was that ethical? He hung up. The next day, Meline called. Before I could even say hello, she launched into it. Mom's furious. Why can't you just let it go? You're tearing the family apart over years-old events. Her voice rose, tight with anger, until she seemed to run out of breath. Then I finally got to speak. Meline, I said, my voice dangerously calm, I let Cole steal from me for 28 months. I let it go while he paid his other workers fairly and gave me scraps. I'm succeeding on my own, and that's what irritates you. Silence. Then she started again, detailing Cole's financial problems, how I got his best clients, how I was responsible for his business failing. The clients chose me, I cut in. They chose my company because I do better work at a fair price. No one forced them to switch. I hit her with the truth. When I told you Cole had enough money to pay his other staff, you went quiet again. Not his brother-in-law. He could pay strangers $28 to $34 an hour, but only $6 for family. She tried to interrupt, but I pushed on. The math is simple, Meline. You knew. The call went downhill fast. You've become so selfish, she accused. You prioritize money over family. My response was a slow, burning ember of truth. 28 months ago you told me to wait. You told me my experience was worth more than money. You preferred your husband's lies to your brother's livelihood. You chose that every time you told me to be grateful for being used. Anger and relief washed over me as I hung up. I had said what I needed to say. I stopped pretending everything was fine when it absolutely wasn't. Travis, one of my first hires, was in the office when I came back in. He saw my face. You okay? I told him the basic story. Working for family, my luck ran out. Sister supported the cheater. He just nodded. My uncle did something similar to my cousin. Promised him a share in the landscaping company for cheap work for a few years. 7 years later, my cousin was still cutting grass for minimum wage while his uncle bought a boat. He shook his head. Some family members just think they're entitled to free labor. The next day, a major opportunity landed. Brennan called, wanting me to quote a huge commercial project, a new restaurant complex. 3 dining areas, a shared kitchen, a full build-out. This was it. My biggest chance yet. It was a $52,000 job, more than I'd made in 7 months back then. I promised Brennan a quote by Monday. My weekend disappeared into bid work. My wife, Lauren, helped with the financial forecast. We spread the blueprints across our kitchen table, reviewing every circuit, every outlet, every light fixture. As I estimated materials and work hours, Lauren entered the data. Even with my lower price, the figures worked. I could undercut Cole and still make enough money to hire a third person, upgrade equipment, maybe even buy a second van to run 2 crews. Lauren printed the final offer sheet. I read it 3 times. It looked strong, professional, competitive. Monday morning, 8:15 a.m., the bid went out. Brennan called at 1:45 p.m. You got the job, he said. My quote was professional, competitive. Cole's bid, he mentioned casually, was 12% higher, a sloppy paper proposal with no breakdown, no schedule, no details. Brennan said my complete bid convinced him I was in control. The following week, I recruited Ethan. He was 24, fresh out of trade school, eager to work and prove himself. He reminded me so much of myself a few years ago. Clean work clothes, license, exam scores packet, he came prepared. Pay expectations? I asked. I'll take whatever you think is fair, he said. I'm still inexperienced. You'll start at $24 an hour, I told him. His eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously, I said. I remembered working hard for nothing. I swore that no one who worked for me would ever feel that way. A few days later, Mason texted me out of the blue. Heard about the restaurant job? Congrats. Cole's treatment of you was always wrong. Multiple crew members agreed, but no one dared speak up for fear of losing their jobs. I thanked him and asked how Cole's business was doing. Things are tough, Mason replied. Cole's snapping at everyone, bidding like he's desperate. Atmosphere's toxic. 3 more clients switched recently, not even to you, just away from Cole. Word's out that his work has declined. Jobs take longer, estimates are all over the place. One client had to call him 3 times to fix a panel installation. He added, stuff like that spreads fast in this field. Builders and contractors talk. Reputation damage, once it happens, is hard to repair. Cole's business declined as mine grew. The satisfaction was real deep, but it couldn't fill the void my sister left. Tuesday evening my phone rang. Mom. I was finishing paperwork in the office. She started with weather, garden chatter. Then the point. She invited me to Sunday dinner. Sit down, talk like adults. Cole's willing to discuss. Meline misses you. Talk about what? I asked, my voice flat. We have to move on, Mom insisted. I'll talk, I said, if Cole brings a check for $17,600 with interest. Mom went quiet. You're being unreasonable. Family trumps money. My jaw tightened. Cole exploited my work for 28 months for money. Meline made it about family when she told me to be grateful for being used. You're misrepresenting. Mom shot back. Cole's family, despite his mistakes. Working 58 hours a week for $250, I countered, made me wonder if I was still family. She didn't reply. I hope you'll reconsider, she said and hung up. The next Monday the restaurant project began. Travis and Ethan arrived at 6:45 a.m., vans loaded. I walked the plans with the general contractor. It was a clean canvas. We arranged panels, installed conduit. Travis oversaw the main dining room, Ethan the kitchen circuits, and I bounced between them, intervening as needed. The job went like clockwork. No wall surprises, no hidden issues. By day 9, the first level rough-in was complete. Brennan visited that Friday afternoon, clipboard in hand, reviewing our progress. He nodded at the panel installation, tested connections. Amazing, he said. You guys are ahead of schedule, quality's great. I have more projects coming up. Interested? Always, I said. For good work. The following week, Veronica called. Her name popped up in the van as I was heading to a supply run. Do you have time for a big project? She asked. Time, I said, is relative. Tell me about it. She needed full electrical service for a 28-unit townhouse subdivision. Work would go on for months, she said. I wondered why she called me, not her usual contractors. Finished with Cole, she stated simply. He'd missed her last 3 project deadlines. His team was disorganized. Code violations required 4 inspections on one job. The hassle was too much, she said. I promised her an offer by week's end. She said she'd await my reply. The days lengthened. Most days I worked 11-hour shifts, sometimes 13. But this was different. Unlike working for Cole, each hour was mine. Every dollar I earned went to me. I was making something real with my name on it. Lauren caught me one evening after I'd been working since 5:30 a.m. We need to talk business, she said firm. We met at a coffee shop near her office. She pulled out her laptop, showed me the numbers. Revenue was rising, but she was worried about me. You're working too many hours, she warned. Burnout is real. You need to think about long-term progress. Hire another electrician soon. Consider a project manager for scheduling. I promised to consider it. Her look told me she didn't trust me. 4 days later, Meline texted. I was unwiring an attic when the message came in. Coffee? Just us. No Cole. I contemplated it. Part of me wanted to ignore it completely. But another part, a curious part, wanted to hear what she had to say. I responded, available Saturday. She sent back a thumbs up. Saturday morning I was the first one there, nursing a black coffee at a window table. Meline arrived 12 minutes late. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her ponytail messy. She ordered some milky, sugary concoction and sat across from me. She just stirred her coffee, staring out the window. Home life's tight, she finally mumbled. Cole's worried about the business. He's drinking more, getting mad over small things. He's obsessed with you, with your progress, while he struggles. I said nothing. Just waited. How are you? She asked, almost an afterthought. Busy. Fine. I nodded, expecting the formality. Then I asked her directly. Do you understand my anger? My departure? She launched into a lengthy monologue about seeing both sides, about complicated relationships, how business and family shouldn't mix. I let her finish. Then a simple question. Was Cole wrong not to pay me? She looked down at her coffee. It's complicated, she said. Complicated? I pressed. What's complicated about it? Cole had expenses. Business grew, cash flow was tight, she recited, practically word for word, the very excuses she'd given me 28 months ago. You're being harsh, she said. I'm being right. My voice was quiet but firm. Meline, despite my love for you, I can't be with you until you admit what Cole did was theft. Not a family dispute or a misunderstanding. Theft. She cried. You're making me choose between my husband and my brother. Others at nearby tables glanced over. I lowered my voice. You made your decision 28 months earlier. You supported Cole's excuses when you told me to be grateful for being exploited, not your brother. I accept your decision, Meline. I finally accept it. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. It's unfair, she whispered. Fair compensation for my efforts was my goal, I said. We sat in silence for another minute. Then she got up and left. I finished my coffee, watched the passers-by outside. I felt sad, yes, but also utterly clear. Like a muddy situation had finally settled. The next week, I prepared the bid for the townhouse project. I measured electrical needs for all 28 units, calculated panel loads, wire runs. I priced materials from 4 different suppliers to get the best deals. My labor costs were fair to my crew, but still kept my total below what I knew Cole would bid. Lauren said my numbers looked good. She even suggested ways to improve cash flow by adjusting the payment schedule. My bid was submitted Friday afternoon. Monday morning, Veronica called. You're hired, she announced. My proposal was detailed, competitive, but not too low. The contract guaranteed 9 months of steady work. I could finally plan ahead instead of scrambling for the next job. Lauren helped me set up a payment schedule to ensure draws at specific completion points. I applied for a small business loan the same week. With larger projects now, I needed a second work van and more tools. The bank manager reviewed my finances, Veronica's contract. 4 days later, the loan was approved. I wrapped a good used van with my company logo. During lunch, Ethan mentioned his trade school friend was looking for a job. Have her call me this afternoon, I said. She did. I checked her references. Her name was on my roster, but I wanted to meet her. We met the following Tuesday at my office. She looked nervous, young, maybe 24. I asked about her experience. Limited to school and a few residential jobs, she admitted. I offered her apprentice pay with skill-based raises. She accepted. She started the following Monday. My crew now included Travis, Ethan, the new apprentice, and me. We started 2 job sites simultaneously. Travis and the apprentice led one crew while I worked with Ethan. Coordination was harder than expected. I checked both sites several times a day to keep everything on schedule. I was working 11-hour days again, but this time I was building something mine. Wednesday afternoon, Grant called. He was a client who had used both Cole and me for projects over the years. I'll be working exclusively with your company now, he informed me. Why? I asked. Cole's recent work is sloppy, he said. His last job required 3 calls to fix sub-panel installation issues. Your guys are on time, your work is cleaner. I thanked him, adding him to my growing client list. The next week, I saw Mason at the electrical supply house. He was getting materials for Cole, I was getting townhouse wire. He stopped me by the loading dock. Cole blames you constantly for his problems, he said, shaking his head. Says you stole his clients, ruined his reputation. His shop is toxic. Some crew members are looking for other jobs because Cole's always angry, punishing everyone. I apologized to Mason but stressed, I haven't done anything wrong. Mason acknowledged that. Everyone knows, he said. 3 days later, Cole visited one of my jobs. Travis called me saying someone needed me at the front. Cole stood by his truck. Unshaved, wrinkled shirt, bags under his eyes. He looked rough. He attacked immediately, accusing me of stealing his employees and sabotaging his reputation. I have to work, Cole, I said, trying to walk away. He followed me, insisting we discuss this. I stopped, turned around. I never slandered you, I said, keeping my voice level. My work quality and pricing attract clients. Cole bristled. Everything you know came from working for me. Travis came over, his presence a silent challenge. Everything okay? He asked. Cole stared at Travis, then at my crew who had all stopped working to watch. He retreated, pointed a finger at me. This isn't over, he snarled, then drove off. I called the non-emergency police line and reported the confrontation. Gave them Cole's name and license plate. The officer said it was good to document in case he escalated. That night, Brennan called. He'd learned about the job site incident from other contractors. Word travels fast in this industry. I'm fine, I assured him. Brennan reported Cole's erratic behavior. He's losing bids because his proposals look rushed, desperate. Some contractors are stopping work with him because his quality has dropped. I thanked Brennan for checking in and for the heads up. Later that night, Melanie called while I was finishing office paperwork. Her voice was shaky, wet, like she'd been crying. Cole came home from work and punched a hole in the kitchen wall, she said, simply. He just walked in and slammed his fist through the drywall next to the fridge. She claimed he was screaming about me ruining his life, taking everything. She tried to calm him, but he just paced and yelled. Then she said something that made my stomach churn. I'm scared, she whispered. Not mad. Scared. She said he hadn't hit her, but her tone suggested she wasn't sure he wouldn't. You should leave, I told her, my voice urgent. Stay with Mom for a few days until Cole calms down. She was quiet for a while. I don't want to make things worse, she finally said before hanging up. I felt that familiar frustration again, like I had for 28 months, watching her make excuses. When your husband is punching holes in walls, I muttered to myself, worse can't happen. The next morning, my lawyer called about routine business paperwork. I mentioned Cole's job site visit and Melanie's wall-punching story. After a pause, my lawyer asked, have you considered a formal demand letter for unpaid wages? I hadn't considered legal action beyond just moving on and starting my own business. He explained a demand letter would formally document the debt and initiate legal action. It would prove Cole owed me and refused to pay. I thought about it for days. I didn't expect Cole to pay through a letter. The man had laughed at me when I showed him the numbers. But documenting it, having that proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy, ungrateful, or dramatic. Proof that he owed me $17,600. I had the lawyer write the letter. It was a professional document, listing hours worked, the licensed electrician market rate, Cole's payments, and the difference. It gave Cole 21 days to pay or propose a payment plan. We sent it certified mail. I knew what would happen. I knew Cole would go crazy. But sometimes you just have to admit it happened. Cole got the letter Tuesday. I know because he called me 2 hours later, screaming. You're destroying me. You vindictive jerk who couldn't handle his chance. He yelled that the demand letter was harassment. His lawyer would silence me. After letting him vent, I finally spoke. Stealing $17,600 and treating me like a dog for 28 months destroyed our relationship, Cole. The letter is just factual. He called me more names and hung up. An hour later, Melanie texted. A long rambling message begging me to drop the legal action. It'll bankrupt Cole. It'll ruin their lives, she cried. She accused me of cruelty. I read the text 4 times. My response was brief. Cole had 28 months to pay me fairly. He didn't. He is responsible for the consequences. She didn't text back. The following week, Lauren invited me into her office to review the monthly numbers. She smiled as she opened the spreadsheets. Your business, she explained, pointing to a revenue column, has outperformed Kohl's for the fourth month in a row. We were doing well, but seeing the numbers lined up like that, it hit me. I had built something bigger than Kohl's in just 18 months, without exploiting anyone, without lying to family. Just fair prices and solid work. It was a long time since I felt such pride. A quiet, deep pride like I'd shown myself my worth. That same week, Mason texted. His message was clear. I'm giving Kohl my 12-day notice. Are you hiring? I pondered the text. Mason was a leader at Kohl's. His departure would devastate Kohl's operation. But I wouldn't turn down a skilled electrician because of Kohl's feelings. Mason was a good candidate, but he had to understand I wouldn't get involved in Kohl's drama. Mason said he understood, he just wanted to work somewhere where the boss didn't have a breakdown every day. Call me after your notice period, I replied, and we'll discuss details. Kohl never responded to the demand letter after 21 days. No call, no letter, nothing. So my lawyer sued for unpaid wages. He said the court process would take months, discovery, depositions, likely settlement talks before trial. Signing the paperwork, I tried not to think about my sister getting upset. I found out quickly. 3 days after the lawsuit, Mom called. Her voice was distraught, like when her kids fought over something stupid. You're dividing the family over money, she cried. Meline's a mess. Kohl's talking about losing everything. Drop it, move on. I inhaled slowly. Mom, I said, Kohl's 28-month exploitation of me broke up the family. Meline tore it apart when she told me to appreciate being used. I won't pretend it didn't happen anymore. Your stubbornness will harm you later, she warned. Maybe, I replied, but I'd regret not standing up for myself more than anything. She hung up without saying goodbye. Meline stopped calling after the lawsuit. After several texts in the first week, she never responded. 12 days later, Mom called again. Meline will always support her husband, she said sadly. She thinks you attacked their family, tried to ruin Kohl's business. Mom, I reiterated, Meline chose Kohl's lies over my unpaid labor long ago. You're stubborn, Mom sighed. Family should forgive. She said nothing when I asked if Kohl would pay me $17,600. I don't know, she said. When will you come for dinner again? Once Meline is ready to accept Kohl's guilt, I told her. Not before. She sighed and hung up. Knowing my sister chose Kohl over me hurt profoundly. But I couldn't keep denying it to keep the peace. I had to accept Meline's decision, even if it felt like losing a family member. 3 days later, Veronica called, describing some regular builders she worked with. She'd been telling them about my company, how reliable my work was compared to other local contractors. She gave me 3 numbers and names. All were looking for reliable electrical contractors. The first one I called that afternoon said, Veronica recommended you. I need a quote for a 6-week commercial renovation. I drove out the next morning to inspect the site and crunched the numbers that night. The second builder called before I could. Veronica says you're fair with pricing and finish on time. Can I get quotes for 2 residential projects next month? The third emailed me, asking about my availability for a fall shopping center remodel. My calendar, which had been empty not long ago, was now booked 2 months in advance. All 3 projects were quoted within 7 days. It was strange seeing consistent work planned so far ahead. A year ago, I barely made $250 a week. Now I had too many jobs. My company was growing solely through quality work and fair treatment of clients, unlike Kohl's management style. Kohl's lawsuit was well known among contractors. When Brennan called to check on my business, I told him the lawsuit was about Kohl owing me unpaid wages from when I worked for him. Brennan had heard Kohl was in legal trouble and said some contractors were avoiding him. Mason texted me a week later, reporting that Kohl lost a major apartment complex contract. The client learned about the lawsuit and decided to avoid the whole thing. Mason stated that the client specifically questioned Kohl's business practices and reliability. In the small contractor network, everyone communicates. When Kohl was sued for unpaid wages, people wondered if he was fair to others. I didn't spread the story, but I didn't hide it either. When contractors asked, I simply told them I worked for almost nothing for 28 months while Kohl charged clients full price. Some reported past billing issues with Kohl. Not much, but enough to make them think. Cole's reputation was suffering, catching up with years of bad decisions. Mason's 12-day notice period ended and I hired him. On his first day, he looked relieved, like a weight had been lifted. When we upgraded commercial building panels, Mason worked quickly, cleanly. His experience was perfect for my growing crew. During lunch, he announced that Cole's company was down to 2 employees. Cole hadn't replaced the 2 guys who quit the week Mason gave notice. Mason said Cole was barely surviving on residential jobs like outlet installations and light fixture replacements. He'd lost larger contracts because he couldn't compete on price or reliability. Mason described Cole's office as a morgue those last few weeks, with Cole stressed and snapping at everyone. "He mentioned you," Mason said. "Yes, all the time. He blames you for every client and employee he lost." Mason was tired of hearing Cole complain instead of solving his business problems. I felt a pang of something akin to pity hearing how far Cole had fallen, but then I remembered his sneering laugh, the paltry $250 checks, and the bitter taste of being told I was ungrateful. He deserved it. He refused to pay me fairly when he absolutely could have. My lawyer requested Cole's financial records during discovery. Cole's lawyer eventually turned over 4-year-old bank statements, client invoices, and payroll records. My lawyer called me into his office to discuss their findings. He laid out invoices on his desk, showing me that Cole had charged clients $28 to $34 an hour for my work. The invoices even listed me as a licensed electrician on the projects. Then he showed me Cole's payroll records, clearly showing he paid me $250 per week regardless of my hours. My lawyer did the math. Over 28 months, Cole billed clients over $116,000 for my work. His total payment to me was $26,000. Cole kept the $90,000 difference, all while claiming the company couldn't pay me properly. "This strengthens our case immensely," my lawyer said. "It proves Cole lied about his company's financial situation and profited directly from your unpaid work." The records were undeniable proof of exploitation. Cole charged full price for a licensed electrician, but paid me less than minimum wage and pocketed the difference. The theft was obvious. And now we had proof. 7 months after I filed the lawsuit, Cole's lawyer contacted mine to negotiate a settlement. My lawyer called to say Cole's side had admitted the debt but couldn't pay the full amount right away. "He doesn't have $17,600 in the bank," my lawyer explained. "His business is really struggling." Cole's lawyer wanted to discuss settlement and payment terms. My lawyer asked what I wanted to do. "I want to hear their offer," I said, "but I won't let Cole off the hook." We planned a meeting for the following week. I waited in my lawyer's office for an hour-long conference call with Cole's lawyer. They offered $45,000 over 6 years. My lawyer, insulted, countered with $90,000 over 30 months. Cole's lawyer claimed he couldn't afford those terms. They went back and forth, the numbers flying around while I sat there, getting more frustrated by the minute. Finally, Cole's lawyer proposed $72,000 over 36 months. My lawyer looked at me. $72,000 was less than the $90,000 proven theft, but it was more than I could reliably expect to collect if we went to trial. My lawyer explained that while a full judgment was possible, Cole's business failing would make it hard to collect. A trial would cost money and time, and I might not get more than the settlement offer. Cole could even declare bankruptcy, leaving me penniless. "I'll accept $72,000 over 36 months, I told my lawyer, "if Cole writes a letter admitting he didn't pay me for my work." I wanted more than money. I wanted him to admit his mistake. My lawyer included it in the settlement. Cole signed a document, admitting he owed me compensation for 28 months of licensed electrical work he did not pay me. The settlement was no longer about squeezing every last dollar. It was about forcing Cole to confess. The written admission mattered more to me than any specific amount. I felt better after signing that settlement. It wasn't perfect, but it resolved a long-standing issue. Cole had to pay me in installments, and he had to acknowledge his debt in writing. The first payment was due in 21 days. After hearing about the settlement, Meline called me after months of silence. Her name on my phone almost made me not answer, but I did. She yelled before I could even greet her. "You should have dropped the lawsuit. The settlement is as bad as trial. You're ruining Cole's business, their lives, for such a small amount of money." I let her finish. "Do you truly think $72,000 over 36 months will destroy Cole?" I asked, my voice calm. The amount isn't important, she shrieked. You refuse to let go and move forward. She was still missing the point entirely. Melanie, I said, my voice thick with exhaustion, it was never about the money. Cole cheated me for 28 months and then told me to be grateful. My family status was used to deny me fair pay. You're dramatic, she accused. Cole made a mistake, but he shouldn't be punished forever. When, I asked, will you apologize for telling me to be grateful for being exploited? Silence. She couldn't even admit her mistake. Cole's written debt admission confirms everything I said, I continued. He charged clients full price for my work, but paid me next to nothing. My settlement agreement proves I wasn't exaggerating or being dramatic as you claimed. I received legal proof that Cole owed me wages. That admission proves I was right to leave and demand my money. Your loyalty is shown by your refusal to see that. Despite legal proof, despite the evidence that Cole exploited me, you chose him when this started and you still do. I told her, my voice breaking slightly, that I knew our relationship might never recover. We each made a choice. You sacrificed family for pride, she accused. And you did the same, I countered, by telling me to be grateful for being stolen from. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat there, phone in hand, sad but decisive. Melanie wouldn't change her mind, and I wouldn't deny Cole's actions just to keep the peace. True self-disclosure sometimes ends relationships. And that was okay. My business, my team, my clients valued my work. That was enough. 4 years later, I realized proper electrical services had passed the point where most small businesses fail. 18 employees were on my payroll. Travis was my operations lead. Ethan commanded his own crew. Mason, with his decades of experience, made bigger jobs run smoothly. We had 3 vans, a work truck, and an office with a receptionist who answered the phone while I was out in the field. We were known for more than just good work, we were known for treating people well. I paid everyone fairly from the start. No delays, no vague promises to settle up later. Someone who worked 48 hours was paid properly. After finishing a job under budget, I split the savings as bonuses. The crew knew I had their back because I showed them in their weekly bank balances, not just in empty promises or family stories. The first Cole settlement check arrived Tuesday morning. $24,000. On time as per his lawyer's payment schedule. I pondered the check, its meaning. Cole wrote me a legal document admitting he owed me money, that I was right about being exploited. But the money itself was less important than what I could do with it. I called an office crew meeting that afternoon. Everyone gathered, curious. I told them the settlement payment had arrived, and that I would be giving them half of it as bonuses. Travis grew quiet, his eyes turning red. I've been in this trade for 17 years, he said, his voice thick, and I've never had a boss share money like that. Most contractors would have kept every penny and called it loss recovery. We built this company together, I told them. Everyone who contributed to its success deserves to reap the benefits. Mason approached me after the meeting. I saw Cole at the supply house last week, he mentioned. He looked rough. Tired. Defeated. He was picking up a small order of basic residential supplies, and I was getting materials for our townhouse project. Cole noticed Mason. He asked how you were doing, Mason said. Not angry or confrontational. Just asking. Mason told him I was doing well, treating my crew properly. Cole just nodded, didn't say anything else. He paid for his materials and left. It appeared, Mason concluded, that Cole was finally beginning to understand what he had lost. Not just the clients or the money, but also the opportunity to create something positive by treating others well. I saw Mom at the grocery store on Saturday morning. I was getting coffee, she was in the produce section. She seemed surprised to see me but not alarmed. We talked about normal things for a minute before she mentioned that Melanie and Cole were going through marriage counseling. Financial stress has made Cole's anger issues worse, she explained. He punched another hole in the wall. Yelled at Melanie over minor things. She stated that Melanie was finally seeing some problems clearly. Mom's tone was cautious, as if she was unsure if I wanted to hear about them. I asked if Melanie was okay. Mom said yes because she was handling it. I nodded and began walking away, but Mom touched my arm. I understand now, she said. Why you were so hurt. She apologized for not being more supportive of me when everything started. When I looked at her, I felt a shift. Not anger, but exhaustion. We got coffee from the shop next to the grocery store, sat at a small table near the window. Mom kept apologizing, and I finally told her I didn't want apologies. I just want you to acknowledge that what happened was wrong. That Cole stole from me and Melanie supported him. Mom nodded. I see that now, she said softly. She claimed she'd been so focused on keeping the family together that she didn't want to see how bad Cole's treatment of me was. She admitted to making excuses for him because confronting the issue would have required her to confront the fact that Melanie married someone capable of such exploitation. I appreciated her candor. We finished our coffee. I love you, Mom, I said, but I can't keep pretending everything is fine with Melanie and Cole just to make family dinners easier. She said she understood. Brennan called me on Monday, his voice buzzing with excitement. I want to discuss a partnership opportunity, he said. We met at his office that afternoon. He laid out the details: a major commercial development project, a new shopping complex with multiple buildings, a complete electrical contract worth over $260,000. Your company's reputation has grown to the point where you're competing for significant contracts, he stated. Cole's bids were sloppy, his reputation mixed, so he never got the work he wanted. Brennan said he'd worked with me enough to know I was capable of handling it. He wanted to collaborate, his company doing general contracting and mine handling all electrical, with profit sharing for the entire development. This was the jump I had been working towards: commercial work, large contracts, real growth. I accepted the partnership and immediately began planning the expansion. I called Lauren and told her we needed to restructure the business's finances to support long-term growth. I hired 2 more electricians within a week, both licensed and experienced. I paid them properly and assigned them to crews that already knew how to work together. Lauren assisted me in setting up the accounting system to track the commercial projects separately. The bank provided a line of credit to cover upfront material costs. Everything moved quickly, but it was controlled growth, not desperate expansion. I learned by watching Cole scramble and overextend himself. I was creating something that would last. Cole failed to make the second settlement payment. It was due on the 17th, but by the 20th, nothing had arrived. Cole's lawyer called and asked about modified payment terms. They wanted to extend the schedule and reduce the monthly amounts. My lawyer pushed back hard. The settlement was already generous in comparison to what Cole owed, he argued. The terms were clear. Cole's lawyer tried to argue financial hardship, but my lawyer pointed out that missing payments resulted in penalties under the agreement Cole signed. 4 days later, the check arrived with an additional $650 in penalty fees. Cole was scrambling. His business was struggling, and the settlement payments were making matters worse. A part of me felt bad. Most of me remembered being told for the previous 28 months that I should be grateful for $250 a week. Melanie called me on Wednesday night. I almost didn't respond, but something made me pick up. I've temporarily separated from Cole, she said, her voice different, quieter, less defensive. I moved in with Mom. She claimed she could finally see how Cole's pride and poor decisions affected everything. He treated me badly, ran his business poorly, and dealt with stress by becoming enraged and breaking things. She claimed the marriage counselor questioned her about Cole's behavior, which made her realize she'd been making excuses for years, not just about me, about everything. She asked if we could meet for lunch, just the 2 of us. I said yes. We met at a downtown cafe on Saturday. Melanie appeared tired but more present, as if she had been hiding behind something for years before finally stepping out. We ordered sandwiches and she began talking before the food arrived. She sincerely apologized to me, a true heartfelt apology, a stark contrast to the previous half-hearted ones. She apologized for not believing me, for choosing Cole's version of events over mine, for telling me to be grateful when I was exploited. She admitted she was afraid to see the truth because it would mean admitting she married someone capable of treating family that way. It meant admitting that her assessment of the person with whom she had built her life was incorrect. She explained that watching Cole's spiral over the last 18 months had forced her to see things clearly: his outrage, his pride, his refusal to accept responsibility. She saw how he treated me, and realized he could treat her similarly when times were tough. I assured her that I would not force her to make a decision. She made her decision 28 months ago when she supported Cole instead of me. Now I was just dealing with the reality of that decision. We met for coffee again the following week, and this time Melanie listened more than she spoke. I explained that while I could rebuild our relationship, Cole was no longer a part of my life. Not at family dinners, not during holidays. Never. I honestly didn't know if divorce would change that. The damage went beyond their marriage. It was about her enabling his exploitation of me while claiming family loyalty. Meline nodded slowly, understanding. She wouldn't pursue reconciliation or try to manipulate me. She only wanted her brother back, whatever that meant now. 4 weeks later, the medical complex contract came through. Lauren called me on a job site, and I had to process the numbers in the van. Design, installation, and inspection of the electrical build-out, $315,000. With milestone payments, the project would last 9 months. Although I had to hire more people and lease more equipment, the profit margin was still high. One contract would pay more than 4 years of proper wages at Kohl's. I called Travis to announce our largest job ever. I had to pull the phone away from my ear because he hooped so loudly. Kohl's final settlement payment arrived on time via certified mail, along with all the legal paperwork. He'd paid $72,000 over 36 months, every payment, knowing it would hurt his struggling business. After depositing the check, I met with a commercial realtor that afternoon. I'd been looking at properties for months, waiting for the right time. I found a small building near the industrial district with highway access, offices, a warehouse, and a workshop. The settlement funds paid the down payment. The purchase agreement was signed 3 weeks later. My sign replaced the previous owner's, proper electrical services boldly written on the front of a building I built from scratch, after Cole tried to keep me small, independent, and grateful for scraps. 4 years after that fateful text about leaving Kohl's company, I did a headcount for Lauren's new employee handbook, right there in my own building. My 18-person staff included licensed electricians, apprentices, an office manager, and a purchasing coordinator. Each received a fair wage, health insurance, and retirement contributions. Travis oversaw commercial operations. Ethan commanded residential. Mason managed service and repairs. Regular clients, consistent work, and a reputation for excellence and dependability. I proved you can succeed without exploiting others. That treating workers well made them work harder and stay longer. That family who watched you get duped and told you to be grateful wasn't worth sacrificing your dignity for. Just 2 residential workers kept Kohl's business afloat. Meline and I had coffee every few weeks and discussed specific topics carefully. And Mom finally admitted she should have supported me sooner. It was a long, painful road, filled with betrayal and tough choices. But I made it. And it taught me a lot about who I am, what I value, and the kind of person I refuse to be. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose between family loyalty and standing up for what's right, even if it meant losing someone you cared about? What did you do? I'd really love to hear your stories in the comments below.